Hi, I'm Ollie Favell. I'm here from the Hackathon and Computing Society at Birmingham City University, and I'm interviewing Steve Pitchford, and he's here from Majestic. So, Steve, could you tell us a little bit about your company first?
Yeah, sure. So, Majestic's been going for about 10 years commercially now, Ollie. We are internet cartographers, a relatively new field in that we map the World Wide Web. So we have our surveying programs, crawlers that visit billions of web pages on a daily basis, downloading them, harvesting, collecting the links between the documents, and forming a worldwide web-based map of how the information just pieces together over the web. And that's really helpful to people like search engine optimizers and domain name resellers who really value the ability to put a score of associative value on any property on the internet.
So what kind of companies are using the services that you're providing?
So it's mostly data savvy internet marketers, and what you're looking there for is search engine optimizers, domain name resellers. There's a little bit of digital PR now who are starting to look into it. Obviously, being able to know not just the page but who's who and things along those lines on the web all starts with an understanding of influence and power, and that's really where our data starts to come in.
So you're sponsoring Bullhacks 2018 here. Have you ever done an event like this before? And sort of what have you brought to events like this beforehand?
So we're a local Birmingham-based business, Ollie, and as you'll know, we've been on the hackathon scene now for a few years. We started off in Brumhack many years ago. We've been one of the lead sponsors at Aston Hack for a number of years. Whilst we're a small employer, we like to reach out and really engage with as many of the grassroots student-based organisations, just part really of corporate citizenship of reaching out and trying to be not just a feeder or a recruiter, but actually a part of the tech society that's starting to be built up in Birmingham.
Yeah. So specifically for Bullhacks, what have you sort of brought along that attendees and sort of students are going to be able to sort of have a play around with and to sort of implement into their projects today?
So one of the things that we're keen to do is that we're keen to let students use our API. It's quite an easy piece of kit to use, and because it's relatively easy, it gives them a simple ground to get into enterprise level programming that quite often they don't experience during their normal course. We're a little bit different to a lot of employers. A lot of employers will come here and it will be mock interviews, it will be user API, and it will all be about trying to actually on the day get a bit pushy, have HR there trying to recruit people. We don't think that's the way it should be done. So what we do is we bring along our API, and if people want to use their API, we'll help them do it. If people want to ask us questions about programming, we'll help them do it. If people just want to talk to us about the state of the industry or some cool tech they found, then we love that sort of stuff, because what we see is this is a long-term game for us, in that what you need to do in order to start recruiting millennials and today's generation, they want to know what it's like as an employer. They don't want to be pushed into making a decision. They're capable of making these choices themselves. So for us as a open, forward-thinking employer, we just want to go along, meet people, have a good time, and our prizes today, they are not for using our API. We've just got a fun little challenge, best unicorn related hack, and we're looking forward to seeing what the students come up with.
Yeah, awesome. So it should be noted that sort of sponsors also provide not just like a financial a financial sum towards the running of the event, but they're also providing sort of support like you guys do for your API, and they're actually providing keys and things like that so that they can use products that they wouldn't usually have access to on the weekend and sort of over the course of the weekend to make these projects even more awesome than sort of they were before. So what sort of things are you said that you're not really sort of coming along, just have a chat, things like that, be friendly and things. So what kind of stuff do you get in the long term out of this? So what kind of benefits have you had as a long-term sort of investor in hackathons and in the scene so far?
Sure. So one of the people who've been observing what we've been up to for a few years said that really what we're engaging in is a policy of what's known as enlightened self-interest, which means that whilst it seems like there's a great deal of outreach and generosity of spirit, and that's the case, it's not without payback. And by actually engaging in long-term mutually beneficial activities, what you do is you establish yourself as a little bit of a thought leader, a position of authority, and that means that people apparently, so the theory goes, we've stumbled it into it through goodwill rather than design, tend to see us as a more enlightened employer, as a more enlightened potential partner to work with, to do business with in the future, than potentially people who with a slightly shorter term view. In that, I think no student who comes to these hackathons, we're talking about a very smart group of people. None of them believe that we're just here to be nice. What they see is we're here as an employer who is nice, and they see us acting in a way that they believe is authentic and that they can appreciate working with because we share their values. And that's really what it's about. It's about us demonstrating that we share the values of Birmingham's programming community.
I think it's a good point that you touched on, the authenticity of the company. These are people who you may not have exposure to in industry as a student, or an up and coming sort of developer, or someone who wants to go into the tech scene, and you're actually getting to meet these people at these events, and that's beneficial for both sides. It's not just beneficial for the students, it's not just beneficial solely for the employer. So what sort of advice would you give if someone was, say, sponsoring their first event? I know this is your first Bullhacks event that you've sponsored, but this isn't your first hackathon. What sort of advice would you give to companies looking to go into that sort of scene?
Thanks, Ollie. That's a great question. I think the thing is to go for it. Really, it's a relatively low risk in terms of outlay, and I think as long as you go into there in the first instance with an open mind, one of discovery and one of participation, you can't go far wrong. Send your programmers rather than your HR team. And for us, what we found is that the surprises, the hidden benefits early on were fantastic. We got loads of feedback on making our API better, loads of feedback on our documentation. We were able to refine our product a great deal. And for us, it's the things that you don't intend to get out of it that become the best benefit.
Yeah, so there's not just sort of the recruitment side of it. There's also the fact that you can take a lot of things that you might learn and that you might not have sort of seen coming, because all these students are very creative people. They're sort of trying to use your software and your API in a way that maybe you might not have thought about before. So this is giving you as well ideas from that side of things. So yeah, what sort of things exactly have you brought along to the event? Obviously, we talked about sponsors being financial potentially, and also bringing along APIs. What other sort of stuff would you recommend providing if maybe a company is looking and they say can't provide something financially, or they don't have a strict API implementation that they could bring along?
I think the main thing to do is to find out if there is a means of engagement. What do you have, or what you're able to bring? Now, if you're coming to a software related hack and you have programmers, just lending a couple of programmers as mentors can be very beneficial, not just to the hackathon but also to the individuals that you send. Having the ability to work with a group of people who ask challenging questions but in a sort of time constrained manner is a fantastic training opportunity. And it's really when you look at these sorts of things that hackathons become very, very cost effective means of engagement. A day's mentoring for an experienced programming for the sort of entry level fees that you can get involved in hackathons with is actually quite a bargain. And also when you're then looking at, let's say, feedback over potentially APIs, there's also software that if you have a data on your website that can turn it into an API that could then be used. There will be tricks and techniques that your programmers can use that they can give to attendees. And sometimes maybe you've got some designers that could help or interact. Even if all else fails, you could turn up with a table full of sweets, candy, drinks, apples, oranges, bananas and snacks, and just go there with an open mind, participate, bring some nice prizes. Doesn't have to be anything too fancy, a fun challenge, something that interests you for your business, and an open mind, participation and learning, really, discovery.